All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of What's What BR. Today we have Wendy Lipsey. How are you, Wendy?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I am good. Bad
Good.
weather this morning, but I don't know. I'm hearing like people are starting to say the word snow, so I think that's what's bringing it in for us.
During 2020 and 2021, it wouldn't surprise me.
Absolutely right. It's like it's going to snow, the bridge is going to freeze over, it's the interstate will shut down. That's just kind of the way we're living these days. So
Welcome to 2021.
well, I appreciate you taking some time, to come tell your story and what you're doing. For anybody who doesn't know, you're, volunteer and board member over at LOPA, right? Which
Yep.
is
Louisiana Organ Procurement Agency. We're a nonprofit organization.
okay. Procurement. So this story, for anybody who's wondering what is this, we're going to go through. Wendy's got an awesome testimony, awesome story, but about organ donation and how more people need to talk about it and hear about it and consider it as an option. And so what's your journey? Where's that start? Kind of.
Well, I'm going to cut through it. My journey began when I was 18 years old. I was in high school, graduating, ready to go on to college, and I wasn't feeling well. And my mom brought me to the doctor. I'd been sick for a while, having stomach issues. And the doctor did blood work and said my liver enzymes were through the roof. He knew something was wrong. So they had to go and do a liver biopsy. And we got the results back that I had a rare autoimmune disorder called primary sclerosing cholangitis, which is a narrowing of the bile ducts. So it's a long story, but I'm going to nutshell it. I went off to college my first year and did great. And I started becoming very ill, very jaundiced. My skin was yellow. My eyes were yellow. The bile was backing up in my liver, and we knew I was sick. So my parents rushed me off to Duke Medical Center in North Carolina, and I had an emergency surgery that opened my common bile duct and made it bigger than it needed to be so bile could excrete through the liver. This was a life-saving procedure because the doctors told me this surgery was going to hold me over until the one day that I needed a liver transplant. It was inevitable. They knew, and I knew I was going to need a liver transplant, but we didn't know when. And my disease was a progressive disease. That's where it starts.
That's the start, but definitely not the end.
Oh gosh. So that's the start of my journey. I go on after, many years. I go to college. I work, going on about my life. In 1994, I got married. And the doctors told me that I would probably never be able to have children because of this liver disease. And we were still pending with this one day of needing a liver transplant. So I knew it was coming, but I didn't know when. Years and years go by after marriage. I was doing well enough, and we checked with the doctors to see if they still thought I could never have children. And for about a year, I was doing so well with my liver numbers. The doctor said, you know what? If you're ever going to have a child while you're young, I think now's the time. So next thing I know, I'm pregnant. And the doctors decided, I was a nurse at the time, and the doctors decided it was going to be best for me quit work. So I kind of retired at a very early age, and I kind of had to be on bed rest for the 9 months of my pregnancy because I was catching every virus that everybody was coming in the doctor's office to see. When I was a nurse, I was catching every virus because of my immune system. So 9 months later, have a very, very healthy baby boy, Luke. And years later, I did get sicker and sicker as time went on. Luke was born in 1998. And in 2007, I was at Ochsner in New Orleans, and the doctors had decided it was now time for me to have that long-awaited liver transplant. But I was put on the list in 2007, and I waited a long 2 years for me to get that phone call. And I'll never forget, in February 10th, 2009, I got a phone call at 10 o'clock at night from my transplant coordinator letting me know that they had found, after 2 years of me waiting, they had found a perfect match for me. And it's so many emotions. It's happiness because you're going to get a second chance at life, but it's also sadness because you know somebody else just died.
Well, and then it's going to be scary too, because this isn't like a plug in your phone charger, kind of thing. It's
either
you're so excited that it happens, so, upset that somebody else, that there's a reason why this is available, but then also you've got the emotion of like, oh God, I'm scared to death. Now I got to go have major surgery.
Yeah. And there's so many emotions going on. And I'll never forget, when they called me, I'm running out the door and my son stopped me. He was only 9 at the time. And it was like 2 a.m. by the time they called me the second time to say, get on the road. It is a match. Come on. And meanwhile, I'm excited and I'm nervous. And I know that's literally somebody just died because the organs have to only a certain amount of time until the organs are good. So I know that just happened. And my heart is breaking for whoever that family is that lost a loved one. But I remember running out the door and my son woke up in the middle of the night. He's yawning. He goes, what's all the fuss? What's going on? I said, Luke, mom's getting a liver transplant. And I remember him, just like you were saying a minute ago, he was out of it. He was kind of tired. He goes, Mom, am I ever going to see you again? Because he knew. We always kept him in the loop of what was going on. So he knew there was a chance either mom was going to live or mom was not going to make it. But I had to be super mom and say, of course I'm going to live. I'm going to be super mom. We're going to get to go do all the things we've never done. We're going to get to go throw the baseball, and I'm going to get to go with you to all your parties for your friends. Because before it was us sitting at home watching movies and playing Uno. So this was going to such a fresh start for me and a fresh start with my son, the son that I always wanted to have.
I wouldn't know what to think, And where were you when you got it?
I was in Baton Rouge at my house in Baton Rouge.
Okay.
So my husband had to drive me to Oxnard, New Orleans, but we had to call his parents to come to our house at 1 a.m. to come stay with Luke because he had school the next day. And my parents were getting in their car to meet me at Oxnard, New Orleans. So it was like I was trying to call everybody and wake them up in the middle of the night. So we rushed to Oxnard. We get there. I get checked in, get all the IVs set up. Everything's ready. And so this is what I was telling you earlier, which is so crazy, is today, the day we're filming, is February 11th.
Mm-hmm.
1 year, I'm not listening to me, 1 year, 12 years ago today at this time, as I'm talking to you in real time, I was in surgery having a liver transplant, and I was in surgery for about 10 hours.
Oh my gosh.
It was a very long, because you have to go into surgery, they prep you, you go through the surgery, they have to make sure all the connectors are working and that the liver is functioning and is pumping before they can even close you up and make sure everything's okay before they close you up. Then you have to go into recovery before. So I mean, it's like a long process, but I made it through. I had a successful liver transplant. So life was really good. And I do remember around February 14th, which is Valentine's Day, 3 days after my transplant, I'll never forget my son, who again was 9. He walked up to the head of the whole liver transplant surgical department and he tugged on his lab coat and said, "You gave me my mom back. And for that, I thank you." I'll never forget it. It's like it happened yesterday.
So obviously it's a major surgery and to go through, but did you notice, is it night and day? Did you start feeling different?
Days a week. It is night and day because first your body is not functioning. Your liver is sending signals to all your other organs saying, I'm not working. So you're not. And so it's like the things that we take for granted, getting up every day and taking a deep breath or going to run out to the mailbox. Those were things I couldn't do. But I felt after a few days, I was like, I feel like I could walk down that hallway and not, and actually make it down that hallway without being like feeling like I'm going to die.
I hate to even bring it up as it doesn't even comparison in scale, but I remember I had to get my gallbladder removed. And after it was done, I went back and told the doctor, it was a couple of weeks later, I was like, I feel amazing now. And they were like, well, yeah. And I was like, they were like, you didn't feel like, I'm like, I just thought everybody felt like, garbage
Right.
like that. I had
That
no idea.
was the
Like
new
that's,
normal. I was sick from 1988 until I got the transplant in 2009. That I thought it was normal to feel like, I don't know what words we can use.
we can do whatever we want.
Crap, crud. That I thought that was normal until I got the liver, and I'm like, this is what normal feels like. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, that's,
But again, still the beginning of my journey. Like people think, oh, that's a great ending. Well, that's not the ending. Um, Fast forward, so those 5 years, lots went on with me. I went through a divorce in 2014. I went through a divorce. My son now at the time is like 14 years old. Um, in the middle of selling that house because I wanted to build a new house and start over and start fresh. But I noticed something wasn't right. I wasn't feeling well. Something wasn't right. I didn't know what it was, but I wasn't feeling that great thing that I felt after my first transplant. And started going back to doctors, and I was becoming jaundiced again. My eyeballs were kind of becoming yellow. I was losing a lot of weight. Something just wasn't right. And had some blood work, and my liver numbers were elevated again. And we're like, no. So I kind of went into denial, like, there's no way I'm in rejection, because you take anti-rejection medication after when you have a transplant every 12 hours, like 8 in the morning and 8 at night. Something just wasn't right. Like I was in denial that I could possibly be going into rejection. And it was very scary. And I told you I was now getting in the middle of a divorce. My son and I are waiting for my house to be built because I was in the middle of buying one. So we moved in with my parents because my house wasn't built yet. And my parents noticed as well that I was losing a lot of weight and something wasn't right. And the doctors said my liver enzymes were not good, but they were going to follow it closely. And one thing led to another, and I'm in the hospital back at Ochsner, going downhill, and I'm losing so much weight. When I tell you, I weighed probably 75 pounds.
oh my God.
And I was a 46-year-old woman.
Jeez.
I weighed like a fifth, like the size of a
That's
fifth.
a problem in itself.
I was extremely malnourished. So I go to the hospital, and at this time they decide they're going to do everything they can, any kind of treatments they can do to revive my liver, to save this liver. They did all these different types of things, and nothing worked. Nothing was working. By this time, I'm so sick that all the toxins from my liver went to my kidney. The doctors came in the room and said, I don't have good news. And we're like, what? The doctor said, now all the toxins from your liver have gone to your kidney. You do need a liver transplant. And I'm like, oh no, not again. I cannot go through this again. They said, but you also need a kidney transplant.
Oh my God.
I'm like, are you nothing's wrong with my kidneys. My kidneys are fine. My mom's telling them her kidneys. They said, no, all the toxins from your liver have gone to your kidney. Also during this time, which I kind of left out, all the toxins from my body, my liver, my kidney had gone to my brain. And I had something called hepatic, meaning liver, brain encephalopathy. So all the toxins were in my brain. So you and I having this conversation now, not something I could have done. I could not even make a sentence. If I wanted something to eat, I would just go hungry. My brain couldn't say I am hungry. I didn't know if this was going to be reversible.
Jeez.
So, yeah. But the doctors came in the room on March 2nd. Well, yeah, it was March 2nd, 2015. I was in ICU. I was on oxygen, in and out of a coma, weighed 68 pounds at this time, going downhill, and I was going downhill fast. And the doctor said to my parents, if Wendy doesn't get a liver and a kidney transplant within the next 72 hours, she's going to die. She's not going to make it. which was hard. I couldn't talk. I couldn't really communicate, but all I could think of was my son. And here, this is a picture of Luke now.
Mhm.
All I could think about was my son. He wasn't going to have a mom. That was really all I could think about. Um, so not knowing if I was going to, I mean, you have to have a perfect match. People are on the waiting list. 70% of people today are waiting on an organ, organ, eye, and tissue donation, are waiting on organs. And here I am going through it for the second time, but not just one organ, two. And I needed a perfect match.
No.
Yeah. So it's just, so I'm in that hospital room, in and out of a coma. I really don't remember. I do remember they had to put me on dialysis, but I don't remember. I know that because my family told me that. I don't ever remember being on dialysis. But literally 72 hours later, I remember the doctor running in the room and saying, "You're not going to believe this. We don't believe this, but we found a perfect match. We have to go out of state." So they had to go somewhere like it. We didn't know where because everything's very, kept quiet and anonymous. They had to go out of state, whether it was Texas or Georgia, fly out there. They had to a doctor has to look at the organs to make sure they're going to be good and viable and fit in my body, my little bitty body. Like if it was a grown up, their organ might be too big to get inside of little old me. 5 feet tall, 68 pounds. So the doctor came back in and said he was leaving. And my mom's like, "Can you tell us anything?" He's like, "No, Miss Lipsey, I need to leave. I need to get on the plane and go look at these organs." So off he went. And he said, "But surgery will be 8:00 at night." That was March 2nd. And at 8:00 at night, I remember the doctor coming in the room and whisking me away. And about 12, 14 hours later, he came out to my family and said, "A-okay, perfect liver, perfect kidney, perfect match. Everything's pumping and flowing. She's going to be fine." And I was.
Oh my gosh. That's an amazing, and that's the abbreviated. I'm sure we're missing every one of the.
I've literally abbreviated it. Yes.
I had no idea. And I can't imagine having to go through any of that. That's
hard.
Geez. I don't know really where to go from there. It's almost like
I can say that. So I had my liver and kidney transplant on March 2nd, 2015. I'm coming up on March 2nd is around the corner, 2021. So I'm coming up on 6 years post-transplant. Life is good. Without the gift of donation, I wouldn't be alive today. Many people wouldn't be alive today. It gives people a second chance, and in my case, a third chance at life.
So if I'm timing this right, so this year will be 6 years.
Yeah.
March will be 6 this year.
March will be 6.
The first kidney failed after 5.
Liver
Failed after 5.
So I'm already past.
So you had to go through 2020, coming up to the 5th, year, going, is this thing gonna? Am I gonna do this again? You're right.
With the times, everything the way it is, I was like, but I just made sure I was exercising and staying really healthy and keeping a good diet because I was not gonna let anything happen to me again. And I didn't get to say this at the beginning. I don't think I told you before this started. So what we do for LOPA is we write letters to our donor families after we've had our like about a year after transplant, because we want to thank the family and we want to say thank you for your family member for saying yes to donation and saving lives. That's when people go to the OMV and they get a heart on their license. And I don't know my second donor, but my first donor was named Christian. He was 16 years old and he had just taken a driver's ed course and he learned about organ donation and he went and got his license and became an organ donor. And he told his mom his wishes. And when he passed away, his mom knew he was an organ donor and he saved my life. As a matter of fact, last night I text his mother. I don't have Christian's liver anymore. I have a different liver, but I'll never forget what he gave me. And I want his mom to know that I still live his legacy. He gave me 5 extra years at life. And I text her every night on the 10th to let her know that I love her and I'm thinking about her. And thank you for having your family say yes to donation. So I'm sure she's having a rough day yesterday and today. And, like 12 years ago, I was in surgery. Something else what I wanted to mention is coming up on Valentine's Day, the 14th, this Sunday, it's National Donor Day. And this is the day that we spread organ donation awareness and encourage people to sign up for organ, eye, and tissue donation because it does save lives. And we want to get out there and educate people. Anybody can go to LOPA.org and register to be an organ donor and learn the facts. Amazing.
Two questions come up there. You've said it a couple times, like organ, eye, tissue. Is it different? Like if I'm just an organ donor?
Umbrella. But organ, eye, cornea, you can donate your cornea, and tissue, but
it's not like you have to be, like if I've checked the box, like you mentioned, the DMV and got the Heartland license. It's all three. I don't need to go back to LOPA and say, no, I need to do, specify which.
It's all under one umbrella. You are an organ donor. Your skin is your largest organ. So it's great if somebody is a burn victim and my skin is perfectly good, they could use some of my skin and graft someone else and, literally save someone else's life.
Now, when you say we can go to LOPA's website, that's like, is it all done there, fill it all out, signed off, or do I then need to go to the DMV and do something else?
No. Now, when you go to the DMV, because you're getting your license updated, you might let them in. They are going to ask you every time, would you like to be an organ donor? That's what they are supposed to ask. And you could say, yes, I did sign up online, but this time maybe your heart, you might not have a heart on your current driver's license, but the next one that you get, you will have a little heart on your license. You'll already be registered in the National Donor Registry, but you will now have a heart on your license. And all people have to do is go to LOPA.org and go to register, and they can sign up to be an organ donor. It takes about a minute and a half.
That's crazy. It would seem like it would be more of a process, but
we could just get more people to say yes. There would be less people dying and less people waiting on the list.
I had a family member that had to do a heart transplant, and so going through that, was long waiting and roller coasters up and down.
Roller coaster. It's all a roller coaster. And one other thing, just to let the community know, we, even during 2020 and 2021, LOPA never stops. We never take a breather. I have been a volunteer for LOPA even before my first transplant, talking from before I had my transplant. And I've been volunteering. We go into schools, churches, organizations, and talk about organ donation. And we love to talk to 8th and 9th and 10th graders who are getting their license, because the more they know about it, that when they go to sign up to go get their license, and the lady behind the counter or the man says, would you like to be an organ donor? They're like, yeah, I learned about that at school the other day. This crazy lady, Wendy, told us all about it. But we are still doing virtual talks and Zoom to schools and all. And, if anybody wants us to come and talk to their church, their school, their synagogue, or any organization in business, you just go to info@lopa.org, click on it. We'll call you back and we will set up something virtual until everybody's vaccinated and still get out in the community.
What do you find is most people's, it seems to me, I'm a donor, it seems an obvious, why would you not? I'm sure you probably know, but what is the reason where some people are like, no, I don't want to do that? Are they afraid that if a loved one passes, that the funeral is going to be different or somebody's going to look different or?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. The first misconception is people that are not educated about it. People don't know what they don't know. So if
Mm-hmm.
you can get out there, this is like what I want to do. I want to live the legacy of both my donors and spread awareness so more people will say yes. People don't know all the facts. That you want them to make an educated decision, but they listen to the myths. They might watch one too many Grey's Anatomy, and there might be a myth on that Grey's Anatomy, and they think if they're in a car accident that the paramedic's going to look at their license. Oh, there's a heart. We don't need to save them like they're an organ donor. No, no, no. Paramedics, doctors, all medical people, their first job is to save your life. That is their vow. That's their oath that they take. Oh, you have to die of a certain death, which is a brain death. Like there's so much, but they're not gonna, people think, oh, if I'm in a car accident, nobody's gonna save me as long as there's a heart on my license. They're just gonna whisk me away and cut me open. And that is not what happens.
So it has to be a brain. So a car accident wouldn't?
No, a car accident would. But that's like one of the major things you have to, if somebody died, let's say of cancer, and the disease is all in their body, their organs aren't going to be viable.
Right.
But if they have a head injury or a brain aneurysm, I mean, there's so many scenarios because your organs have to be good and viable in order to, transplant them into somebody else.
It's, I guess here's a question. I guess I wonder, it would seem obvious to me. We're asking people at the DMV if you're a donor, but we don't ask when you go into the hospital. Does that?
Yeah, and you know what? They ask when you go in the hospital, do you have a living will?
Right. That was my next question.
Agree. I don't know why. I don't know why. Maybe I know when you get to the hospital, you have to give them your driver's license and they make a copy of it. So maybe they already see, but you never know. Like if you go online tomorrow, so
not to pick on our hospital system. I had to go. This was even pre-COVID, but it's like I would think maybe somebody would say, well, maybe it's inappropriate, but I've been in the hospital and had them come in and go, well, Mr. Foreman, you're here. This is going to cost X number of dollars. Do you have a credit card? I'm like, I haven't even gotten treated, yet. And you're wanting me to, get you a payment. Can we ask if somebody doesn't know? And they have people that walk around the hospital, and if you just had a baby, they have the lactation specialist. They've got, all these different, they've got so many services. It'd be like have somebody that maybe even it's a volunteer from LOPA, that they can say, hey, let's build a bridge, let's build a partnership. And if somebody doesn't know, we'll call you and you can send somebody over and answer questions.
There is always a representative at a hospital, like here in Baton Rouge. There's Samantha, who's Our Lady of the Lake, for example. She works for LOPA. She's a nurse at LOPA. And LOPA is only called in at that time of death. If that person is brain dead, no brain activity, and doctors do all the tests to make sure that person is officially, there's no activity. At that time, the family member, it's up to the family member. They'll say, yes.
This is from the TV show.
My friend Wendy, my daughter Wendy is an organ donor, and they'll see it on the license or whatever. And next of kin makes that decision, at that point, LOPA's called in, and a representative, it's usually a social worker with LOPA, family advocate, comes in and talks to the family and let them know, because they want, if we donate the cornea, can they have an open casket? Absolutely. The cornea just looks like a little contact lens that's on their eye is shut. They can put it in a prosthetic. There's no difference. If they take someone like skin or tissue, your body's covered. You're wearing clothes. They're not going to see that.
Right. Tell me this: is the decision no, I'm not a donor, yes, I'm a donor, or is it I didn't make the decision? To where is family able to make? If you don't go say yes, like your family born not a donor. Is
next of kin.
Next of kin can make that decision after the fact?
So that would be like your husband would be really that's your next of kin. That's your, I mean, not your blood, but it's your, to say, Wendy did not sign up to be an organ donor, but we talked about it, and our wishes are for her to, because a lot, think about it. There's a lot of people that die maybe in a car accident or another way. If 12 or 13 years old, they don't have a driver's license. And when I was 13 years old, I wasn't having a discussion with my family at the kitchen table about being an organ donor and my wishes after if something happens to me. But we are encouraging, when we talk to everybody through LOPA, we encourage people and kids in 9th grade, go home, have the talk with your family, ask your parents if they're organ donors, find out your family's wishes. So at that time of death, if this is what you're faced with, you're not struggling. Oh God, would they have wanted this? I don't know. They already know the wishes. And you don't have to make that decision at that time. You know that person's wishes.
It's not, I'm glad to hear that it's not a no or yes. It's if you haven't decided, someone else can kind of be there. But I was telling somebody the other day, like, I firmly believe when it comes to, this isn't organ donation, but like when it comes to like a will, like a family and what you're going to do, don't wait to go, let everyone know. Nobody wants to really go have those conversations, but I don't want to be in a situation where I'm wondering what my family member may have been trying to imply inside this, will document, or what they were thinking, or if they didn't do anything. Have the discussion, not to shift this to a will, but to have the discussion here. It's like, hey, we don't have to do anything now, because like somebody might have just gotten their license renewed yesterday, didn't do the donor, watched this, realized it, go, you know what, I'm going to be a donor. But if you don't tell anybody, now you're putting that ambiguity in there. People are wondering. You're not going to go back and say yes at the DMV for 4 more years. It's like, just, hey, by the way, if something ever happens, I'm good.
People just don't realize what a relief it is to the family to know that person's wishes. Like, did they, all the things, it's an uncomfortable, like, I don't want to sit around my Thanksgiving table cutting my turkey and eating my stuffing. And, I've decided I'm going to be an organ donor and I don't want an open casket. I mean, that's uncomfortable. Make sure you put that in your will, but discuss it with your family. Because I promise you, if someone does pass away, the last thing you want to be angsting over is, what did they want?
Mm-hmm. And I think you mentioned it. I guess it's an easy.
It is. It's a gift you can give your family. It really is.
Yes. I think if there was anything, if in the untimely event of someone's death, if that they've gone and registered at LOPA, or they've mentioned it to you, it's a bad time. But I think what could make that better is knowing, I don't know the numbers. I'm sure you probably do, but like one donor has the potential to affect, an incredible. So 8, I know if something happened to me, today, and then my family would feel horrible. Hopefully they would, but they would feel a lot better knowing that, hey, potentially there's 8 other families that are feeling, like you said, you have the picture, you send that text every year, that's powerful, that goes a long way, And,
I wrote a letter to my second donor family, and I got a response back that their mom died of it was their kids that sent me a letter back that said their mom died a very tragic death. This was in 2015, and they aren't ready to speak to any of the recipients. I don't know how the mom died, but it obviously was tragic enough that the kids, but you know what? I still reach out every year and write a letter and just thank them. I'm not urging them to, I'm not like, you need to get in touch with me. That's their business and their privacy. But listen, my mission and LOPA's mission, save lives. One person can save 8 lives. Why wouldn't you say yes to donation? And I'll be doggone if I am not going to do everything in my power. It is my mission in life to help save lives and live the legacies of my donors that pre-planned and said yes to saving lives. It is life-saving. I've been, like I said, I've been volunteering with LOPA since 2000 and and now it's 2021. I'm also on their foundation board. And one other thing I do want to mention is we have a beautiful new home office in Covington, Louisiana, where we procure organs. We are a recovery center where instead of tying up hospital surgical rooms for doctors to look at the organs, they can go be sent to LOPA. And, organ donation is no cost to the family. There's no medical cost to the donor family, nothing. They're saving lives. They are making life happen, which is our motto, making life happen.
So what does the doctor do at your facility? He comes to the office?
And look at the organs to make sure, hey, there's not a flaw, or, oh, this person looks like they have their liver might not be good, but wow, their kidneys are great, to make sure everything's viable, to get to all the centers of, for the people that have been on waiting lists for years and years.
So it's like kind of a virtual, they're not bringing the organs in. It's like a virtually they can come and look and see. Or?
No, they're coming. Like their doctors will come, like for our center, for like our Louisiana, because we're LOPA, Louisiana Organ Procurement Agency. So like Ochsner is our big, which is just like 30 minutes away from the recovery
so
center.
The organ would make it to you guys. You guys hold the doctor.
And then the doctors would take it, and LOPA, a person from LOPA that works there, that's a recovery nurse, they get it to the hospital and it gets put in someone's body and saves someone's life. So at this facility that we have, this beautiful facility we have in Covington, on the foundation board, we are currently working. We're trying to raise $1 million so we can have a beautiful memorial park where if people want to put their names, the donor families of a loved one, in a stone or in a brick wall, or we have this donor memorial park where we can have butterfly releases and say the donor's name and remember. So if people want to go to lopa.org and make a donation, we're a nonprofit organization. If people ever want to make a donation, that would go to that fund, and for education purposes, to educate the community so everyone will become an organ donor.
Wow. I think this will sound probably very cheesy, but what you were describing when you said it earlier, of a couple different pieces of connected, where it takes like a minute and a half, and you can save, up to 8 people. And like, this will sound cheesy, but like what popped in my head, it's like, we'll go spend, we'll take the Geico commercial, people will go spend 15 minutes to save 15%. It's like, take a minute and a half to save 8,
Exactly. 8 lives. And what's sad is a lot of people, if you ask if somebody's not registered to be an organ, I don't believe in that. It's like, what do you not believe in? Like, what's not to believe? It's proven that it can save lives, people that are not educated about it. And they don't think about it until it affects someone in their lives, or it affects someone in their family. If a young guy that was 20 years old, I don't want to be an organ donor, I don't believe in it, and all of a sudden their mom or their dad needs a kidney or liver, they're automatically like, how do I get my mom and dad a kidney and a liver? And it's like, wait a minute, like, we're still gonna, as long as they're we're gonna, as long as they qualify, we're gonna get them on a list. The Ochsner is, get them on the list. But all of a sudden they believe in it, but they didn't before, and they want, they want to save their families' lives. It has to get close to home.
Somebody, obviously, there's no direct correlation to what I'm about to ask, but have you ever heard of somebody doing like national, the national databases where they can say, hey, we know that the percentage of you getting, a kidney or liver is XYZ, but if we could get donors to rise by this percentage, we can get this percentage to fall. Like, is there
data right now? But oh my gosh, literally, if you go on LOPA, www.lopa.org, it literally shows graphics of number of people waiting, and for what organs. Kidney is the number 1 organ most needed. Here's a true fact. If you just want to know a fact, when I had my kidney transplant, they don't take out a kidney, they put one in. So I have 3 kidneys. find that. Just wanted to blow your mind. Because sometimes some of your other kidneys can gain a little function back. So they don't want to take it away. Just a fun fact. But yes, there are so many stats of, how it's just people, you think about people that fill up Tiger Stadium, all the people that you can seat in Tiger Stadium, that plus wrapped around the number of people all around waiting for a life-saving transplant. And if more people would sign up and say yes all around the world, people wouldn't be on that waiting list. People would not be dying while waiting on this list. No one should die waiting on an organ. LOPA's trying to make life happen and make a difference by getting more people to sign up. And our deal is educate everybody as much as we can. Because like I said, I'm walking, talking, breathing, and I wouldn't be without the gift of life. And I got to tell you, recipients like myself and many, many others that I know in the community, we are so grateful for the gift of life. And not a day goes by that I don't think about my donors and my donors' family. And every morning that I can get up and take a deep breath, I am grateful. I live every day like it's my last, and I don't take a breath for granted because no one is promised a tomorrow.
I would think, just from the outside, it would seem like, educate and, awareness, but it would almost seem like one of the biggest problems or hurdles would be, apathy, or just the lack of, like, you see this, somebody's watching it, it's going, you know what? Yeah, I'll do that. Next time I go to the DMV, or when I get a minute, like if you're walking around the lake, listening to the podcast, you're like, I'm gonna go to the website when I get back to the house. It gets forgotten about. It wasn't intentional. It's like, well, I'll do it when I go to the DMV, or I'll go to the site. So that seems like that would be, X% of people say, yeah, I'll do it, I'm in. But the follow through.
When we go into schools and talk to kids, right now everything is online, but we send, it's not this, all kids, students, 8th, 9th grade home with a form. And if they're not 18 years old, they have to get their parents a guardian signature saying that the kids go home, these 9th graders go home and tell their parents, we spent all day with LOPA and they taught us about organ, eye, and tissue donation. We want to sign up and be a donor. And, so they fill out the form, their parents sign it. The kids bring the form back to their teacher and turn it in. And LOPA gets a call because we've been there all day the day before. And the teacher has a stack of papers, might have 20 or 30, where students bring it back. And we go and we can input it in the computer. Now everything's online, nothing's with paper. But if there was proof, like if you have that paper in front of you, when we do health fairs and get people to sign up, now we bring computers. We're not doing health fairs because of COVID. And we'll turn that computer around to that person, go to the website and say, why don't you sign up right now? And we don't push them into it. They're not going to do it. We're not going to make anybody do anything they're not comfortable doing.
Right.
But we can turn that computer around right then and there and say, just fill it. They will fill it out, click it and say, I've been thinking about this for a long time and I am going to do it right now.
That's awesome. Well, look, I'd love to help you keep spreading the word, and we're going to do what we can here. I tell people all the time, you got more important people to talk to than me. And so I appreciate you taking some time out of your day. This is amazing to hear your story, and then just to hear how easy it's a huge problem that can be solved with a device in your hand.
Yep. And, there's so many other stories out there, and I know we don't have any more time, but there's so many, one of my good friends' son had 3 liver transplants before he was 6 months old. Stories. Yeah. And he's alive and well today. There's just so many stories out there that just put more people, LOPA tries to put them on Facebook pages that educate people, because I'm a living testimony that there's life after transplant.
Yeah. Well, let's find some of them. Let's bring them on the show. Let's tell the story.
I can get you name the numbers without a problem.
Well, I appreciate it, so much. It's been fun and educational.
I really appreciate y'all reaching out to me, and I'm honored to be on the show. And if there's anything or a part two or anything you want me to do, or get in touch with other recipients or donor families so you can hear the other side of what they go through, we can make that happen as well.
Awesome. Well, you have an awesome day. I appreciate the time. We'll definitely get connected again. And thanks so much.
Great. Thank you.